Hi there, it's Paulie here. So I'm going to do some World War II rules. These are my favourite World War II rules. They are sadly out of print. They're called Korps Commander. These are by Tabletop Games, who were a brilliant British company that brought out some great stuff, some very innovative stuff. Unfortunately, I think Bruce Reed Taylor, who was the main designer, he died. And so the company died with him, and it's a damn shame because their stuff was fantastic. And this, I think, is their piece de resistance. You can still find this online sometimes. I'll try and put some links because there might be some shrine sites out there. It also turns up on eBay and so on every now and then. But there are some scans out there. Why I love these. So they're designed for 6mm. They're a World War II set, and they're designed for... They're called the Road to Berlin. So it's for that D-Day to fall of Berlin kind of thing for European and Russian fronts. So 1944, 1945, Europe and Ostfront. So it's, Panthers and T-34s and Shermans and all that sort of stuff. Americans, Russians, Germans, British, Canadians, and since I'm, perverse, yes, I have run the Brazilians in this. Yes, I'll tell you some anecdotes about this in a bit. But, so, it's designed so that you can run divisions and indeed maybe an entire corps or more on a tabletop. So you're playing big actions, and that's kind of where the fun is, because a lot of this is the resource management that you've got in corps and divisions. So in a lot of tabletop games, you can buy all these different weapons. Oh, I've got my 88mm guns to... Yeah. No. If you're actually playing with the resources open to divisions and corps, you've only got so much of all of these things available to you. And where you put them is important. Are you German? Are you taking your 88s away from their anti-aircraft duties and you're dragging them forward as anti-tank guns? Yeah. Good. Well, then you don't have any heavy anti-aircraft stuff protecting stores and artillery and HQ facilities. Are you happy with that? Yeah, some harsh decisions being made here. So the basic maneuver group is essentially like a platoon. And that'll be like an inch wide base. Now that could be like a platoon of tanks or a troop or squadron tank, or it could be a infantry platoon. There's a numerical marker, often dots, which show you the physical strength of that. So a infantry platoon, like if it's a German infantry platoon, it might have about 5 or 6 dots on it. It's got 50 or 60 guys in it. A Russian platoon, which is still one counter, it might have 8 dots on it. It's a heavier manpower platoon. These things have all got like a firepower rating for them, and there's a little chart showing at different ranges what they are like against soft targets like infantry, and what they are like against what their armour penetration is against armoured targets, and what their armour protection is. And there's also some other notes. Vehicles can be small or very small, and the vehicles can be tractor wheeled mobility, and they can be high mobility, low mobility, very high mobility, this sort of thing. And again, on this bigger scale, these things suddenly become really interesting and important. So you'll get things like Russian troops. You'll see that they've got that pretty heavy manpower. Now, when you look at their stats, they don't have kind of much in the way of close range anti-tank. So they're not that dangerous against anti-tank, in that kind of 50 meter, almost butting up against each other bound. But any infantry that gets on to vehicles can usually kind of close assault with, anti-tank grenades, tank mines, magnetic mines, that sort of stuff. So, okay, don't let them get on top of you. German guys, pretty heavily outfitted with Panzerschrecks and so on. There's a difference between German infantry, German Panzergrenadier infantry, who are more thoroughly provided with, they've got way more machine guns and so on. And they've also got like Volksgrenadier and so on, who are over-provided in shorter-ranged automatic weapons, but are a little bit in dearth of longer-range rifles and so on. So again, they're kind of great for defending the ruins, and then you've got like crappy Volkssturm or whatever who just give an old Belgian rifle. So they've got these kind of differences. But Belgian rifles, but here have an armload of Panzerfausts. All right, fair enough. American guys, lots of semi-automatic rifles and so on. So they've got pretty good firepower and so on. And what's quite funny with them is the Americans are very heavy on manpower. Oh, more on that in a minute. So you've got the actual organizational structures there for everyone's units. So, you know, they're all in there. If you want to do a US Armored Division, you want to do a Canadian or Commonwealth or Polish or British, you know, or you would want to do a Russian, whatever, they've got them all in there. You know, Cavalry Division, whatever you want, there they are. And so it gives you the specific resources. So as I said, you've got to be careful how you split those resources around. A Corps got a heavy artillery set of elements to it. Are you actually going to concentrate them so that they are backing one of your divisions in particular? Are you bringing them right forward? Are you holding them in reserve till you see how this thing goes, where they're going to be needed? You know, so there's a lot of resource management in this that I love. Some stuff really comes to the fore beautifully. So light vehicles shine because the reconnaissance and so on is really important. And there's nothing more terrifying than, you know, reconnaissance groups with really great lines back to their artillery who are acting as artillery observers. They just can rain destruction down on people with the core artillery. And you'll suddenly get your surprise. You see the British are really good at this. They've got these really beefy core armoured car units that are there to basically back up all your divisional reconnaissance groups and to reconnoitre on their own. And these guys have got really substantial kind of armoured car elements and, you know, infantry in little tiny Stuart kangaroos and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, woohoo, great stuff. That way of kind of representing the strength of units is quite funny. We were playing when we were doing Battle of the Bolts, and I was playing Kampfgruppe Pfeiffer, which is the German armoured spearhead unit. So I've got Tiger 2s, and we get into this game, and the other side just started complaining the moment I brought on. I think I brought on like probably 8 or 9 bases of Tiger 2. That's ridiculous. That's just overrun us. These points can't possibly. Blah, 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 take that. This is all rigged. And it says, no. We are playing a historical scenario, and this is exactly what they had. And it took them ages before they looked, and they realised that these German Panzer troops, instead of being like 5 vehicles or 6 vehicles and 9 vehicles, they're 1 Panzer II. They're 1 or 2 Tiger 2s at best. No, I've got every single Tiger 2 on the Western Front there. All 17 of them. There were 19, but 2 of them broke down at the railhead on the way to the battlefield. It's just that technically each one's a different troop, so they appear as a different encounter. And the psychological effect was fantastic. Oh my God, we've got this wave of... It's not a wave, it's only half a dozen of these bloody things. But I played American for a couple of things, and I find American stuff hilarious to play. It's all crap. It's incredibly vanilla, but there's tons of it. It actually does its job well. And I think that's the thing that like people get hypnotized by all of these Panther tanks and so on. But it's never tank. It's very rarely tank versus tank. If the Panthers come in, the Americans have got all these M36 tank destroyers and so on that are there to deal with these things. I'm drawing them onto my tank destroyers. I'm not going to go Sherman versus Sherman. The Shermans, however, are very reliable, pretty fast. They got a great general purpose gun. They're really good for just basically monstering infantry, monstering artillery, and making breakthroughs. That's what these things are for, So, but what was really hilarious was American infantry, because as I said, German infantry might have in theory, it's got about 60 guys in one of their platoons. However, late war, they're telling you it's probably going to be more like 50 or 40. They're really whittling down. And they probably haven't got half tracks. Like if it's Panzer Grenadiers, they might be in horse-drawn wagons or on bicycles, which is great. They've got all these different here's a paper German unit, and here's real ones as they really appeared. Here's like Leibstandarte with their horse-drawn Panzer Grenadiers and so on. But the Americans, oh no, they're all in half tracks and stuff, all right, which gives you a bonus. But people start shooting, what you're doing is you've got the numerical number represented by the counter, and you look across what its value is, and that basically gives you the roll for what you're rolling to do damage. So the more numbers represented by that base, the more damage it's doing. And people are just getting monstered by these American infantry units, and they suddenly realise that no, my platoons are strength 9. Right? I've got 90 guys in them. I've got easily twice the strength of a German platoon. So, but wait, it gets worse because I have a thing called Rebel Depot. So, Rebel Depot? Yes, I've got replacement depots. So my my regiment actually has a replacement company. So it's got a group of guys, and that's basically strength points of infantry that I can send forward to replace casualties. I just cross them off. So if my front line is engaged and back, off and forth, as you do damage to someone's strength. But, okay, you've taken 2 off this unit, 1 off this unit, 1 off this unit. I've got like 12 back here just as replacements, all right? So I've lost a total of 5 all up and down the line. All right, I'm crossing 5 off my replacement, and my units are just healed. They're just being fed back into the fight. You what? Says, yes, I have spare warm idiots sent forward to fight. But wait, says, it gets worse. What? Division also has a Rebel Depot. And that Rebel Depot also includes gun tubes. There's some reserve artillery, and there's even a motor pool. What? Yeah, I have a motor pool of unattached tows and armoured vehicles, which if I've taken damage, I can send these forward to replace them. The Americans are supply. Everything is massively well supplied. So there's a core Rebel Depot as well, so I can just keep. It's like a soulless army of the undead. We keep shooting and they keep coming. So, you betcha, yo. And the artillery you could fire if you had lots of supplies. You can basically overfire your artillery. You intense fire it, but it does whittle down your supplies. Except the Americans are usually oversupplied compared to everyone else, so it whittles down their supplies, but their supplies are always massively higher than yours anyway. So in other words, they're getting a dice roll bonus every time they try and roll artillery on you. So Americans were really annoying to fight, and you could just see the Germans grinding their teeth because it's like they thought the Russians were going to be the human wave kind of thing. So no, it's American, I assure you. Because the Russians, it's warm bodies, but with American, it's like replacement vehicles, replacement everything. I've got just aircraft going overhead all the time. This is just horrible. I took Brazilian because the Brazilian troops fought in Italy, and just to be different, which was cool. So it's like, don't be British. What? Look, take a British armoured unit, but be free French, be Polish. You could be Canadian. Canadian's kind of interesting. They've got some nice light vehicles, but some interesting stuff kind of shone. Some vehicles are marked as small, and this means they're very hard to spot. And it also, when you fire at them, if they're outside of close range, you kind of shift the effectiveness of the attack, back a few columns because they're harder to hit. And likewise, if they're marked as having built-in smoke grenades and so on, it also gives you a negative to hit if you're doing opportunity fire against them. If they've moved and you fire, because basically someone's taken a shot. Oh, literally, it's a trigger. I've been a crew. I've done this myself. You hit a trigger and blam! British vehicles are famous for it. They have a nest of a dozen smoke mortars in a fan, and they just make this curtain of smoke out the front. Drive reverse and you zigzag out of there, and then you redeploy somewhere else. All these kind of little things that don't really come into play in a lot of rules are something quite important. Aircraft are kind of obviously valuable, but what's also important, not just what bomb load it carries and whatever, but also they've got a turnaround on these aircraft. How swift are these things to rearm and refuel? Because it's a core action. This could be taking place over days for a battlefield thing. So you're wanting to basically cycle these things through. So stuff that's really niggling or something that's coming from far away. So if you're in Europe and you want 4-engine bombers coming over to support you, that's fine. But that's been a 4-hour trip from where they're coming. So once they deliver payload, their turnaround is very long. Okay, so I want more battle taxi stuff that's closer to the front, which might not be as massively impressive, but it's turning up more often and this sort of thing. So lots of very interesting things coming into play there. So these were great rules. They really made you think in that higher level, resource management. Now, It was done as a kind of an interrupted you go, I go system. So one side does their move. If the other side can see troops that are moving forward, they can attempt to do opportunity fire against them. Essentially, they rolled a spot, and if they can, they fire. There's negatives to that fire if the other guys have sort of smoke grenades and so on. And then once units have moved, if someone tries to close assault, the defenders get to fire at people who are trying to move onto them because like no one's an idiot. But then you get fire goes back and forth between both sides, and then it's the next side's move. Morale is done kind of by formation rather than sort of individual units on the ground. So your regiment level and above will start losing spirit, and as it takes too many casualties and so on, it will start to lose the ability to move forward. It's got to start rolling to go forward, and so you'll stall out, which means you've got to have follow-up troops. If you're going to like continue a push, you've got to be able to leapfrog fresh units past while you rally those units and try and refresh. And you know, if you do have replacements to bring them up to strength, you know, you start replenishing those units to bring them forward. So this was a great game of battle management as well as quite a cunning game of fighting. You get lots of very cool fights. The Germans have some great reconnaissance stuff. So you get these ferocious battles going on between, you know, various SDKFZ 234 kind of, you know, 8-wheeled armoured car variants with, you know, stubby 74s and Puma armoured cars and so on, tangling with all of these, you know, British Daimlers and so on. But meanwhile, no one's noticed the Dingo Scout cars, which are up on the ridge, directing Corps artillery to shell the town. The aircraft of the observation aircraft have just spotted the other guy's artillery supply depot. So, yeah, you know an airstrike's coming in, and suddenly the whistle blows and whee, you know, a 3-regiment-wide infantry attack comes sweeping through the woods. So, yeah, it was actually quite an exciting game to play. Relatively inexpensive. 6mm is pretty inexpensive. And I haven't seen these rules matched. I really haven't. There's some other cool kind of stuff that I've seen for World War II in 6mm. But something about the combination that these rules did, that platoon strength, because this is the maneuver unit, but it might vary in strength. That kind of platoon thing, that resource management of like the division and corps resources being, you know, having to be careful what you use, or what you put up and so on. I haven't seen that matched. I really haven't. Bruce is a sore loss to the miniatures community. He left a real mark of joy and respect. Everyone liked him, and his rules were enjoyed, which for a gamer, yeah, that's a pretty good legacy to leave right there. Look, Bruce Retailer, here's to you. I enjoyed everything that you ever wrote, mate. You were a damn fine rules designer. Much respect and much love. And if you can, get hold of Korps Commander, Korps spelt with a K, and anything else by Tabletop Games. It's all of it's worthwhile. It was just amazing stuff. Anyway, thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for listening in. Thank you very much to all my Patreon supporters. You keep the channel going. And to everyone out there, I hope we meet around a games table together, hoist a few drinks, have a few laughs, and make some crazy anecdotes sometime. Cheers, everyone. Look after yourselves. Bye.